Hello, welcome to BioGreat TV. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification so you don't miss our next video. How Ethiopia got independence. The history of Ethiopia's independence is unlike any other African country because it was never really colonized in the real sense of the word. It was occupied by Italy for about 5 years before it was liberated during the Second World War, and the exiled Emperor Haile Selassie returned to the throne. However, 1st of March 1896 was the day Ethiopia first affirmed its independence, and in 1941 again, on the 5th of May, it reaffirmed it. This does not make sense, right? Now, let's get down to what really happened. Ethiopia existed as a kingdom for thousands of years. According to oral literature, Ethiopia's monarchy was founded by Menelik I, who is claimed to be the offspring of the biblical King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Ethiopia continued as a monarchy even in the mid-19th century, when the scramble for Africa began. They and Liberia were the only two countries in Africa that preserved their sovereignty. But when the Italians came to the region, Menelik II, who was emperor at the time, entered an alliance with them and signed a treaty in 1889. By the terms of the treaty, he accepted their right to Eritrea, which they had occupied at the time with little resistance, and gave to them territories in the north of Ethiopia around Keren, Massawa, and Asmira. In exchange, he got from them money and weapons, which included 30,000 muskets and 28 cannons. However, language barrier among the two translators of the treaties resulted in the outbreak of the First Italo-Ethiopian War in 1895. One of the articles of the treaty states in the Amharic version that when dealing with international powers, the Ethiopian emperor may use the assistance of the Italian government. But the Italian text of the treaty was different, saying instead that he must use the assistance of the Italian government. On this basis, Italy proclaimed to the world that Ethiopia had become an Italian protectorate, but Emperor Menelik dismissed their claim in 1890. In 1893, he renounced the entire treaty. The Italians responded with an attempt to impose their protectorate on Ethiopia by force. The Italian commander in Eritrea, who had been instructed to win a decisive victory over Menelik, began his campaign by declaring that he would return with the Ethiopian emperor in a cage. The result of the war couldn't have been different. Menelik set out with about 70,000 men, marching from Addis Ababa to Adwa. Right there at Adwa on the 1st of March 1896, Menelik defeated Italy, the most humiliating defeat a colonial power ever suffered in Africa. By this victory, Ethiopia affirmed their independence from the Italians who attempted to colonize them. At the end of the battle, more than 4,000 Italian soldiers were dead or missing. Another 2,000 were captured and made to make an agonizing march back to Addis Ababa. Also, about 4,000 Eritrean troops who were in the Italian army were also killed or captured. Back in Europe, the news of Italy's defeat had reached home, and it was not taken lightly. Riots broke out in the streets, and within 2 weeks, the prime minister was removed from office and replaced. By the year's end, the new Italian government had no choice but to accept Ethiopia's independence. One would think the Italians would live with their tails between their legs, never to return, but far from it. With their humiliating defeat still fresh in their minds, 40 years later in 1936, they made a second attempt at taking over Ethiopia, using as an excuse of what was otherwise a small fight between Ethiopia and Italy-controlled Somalia. This time, unlike their first battle, Italy is victorious and claimed Ethiopia as part of their empire along with Somalia and Eritrea. They called this collectively Italian East Africa. The emperor of Ethiopia at that time, Haile Selassie, had fled abroad 4 days before his country's defeat. Selassie became a well-known international figure when he appeared before the League of Nations on the 30th of June 1936 to make fervent appeals concerning the Italian occupation of Ethiopia, gaining the support of the United States of America and Russia. He was voted as the Times Man of the Year for 1935 because of the address he gave. But it would take another 4 years before Ethiopia regained its independence. It happened on the 5th of May 1941 during the Second World War. The Allied forces led by Britain defeated the Italians, bringing to an end the existence of Italian East Africa. Thus, Ethiopia's independence was reaffirmed and Haile Selassie was reinstalled as the Emperor of Ethiopia. What have we missed out of this history? Let's know in the comment section. Will it be ridiculous to subscribe to our channel? If no, please like this video, share and subscribe to our channel.